Who was the first person in history whose name we still remember? A king? A conqueror? A priest? Perhaps the founder of a great city? After all, history tends to remember those who wield power, the builders of empires, the victors of wars, the figures whose names are carved into monuments and preserved in legend. Yet the earliest recorded name in human history may belong to none of these. Instead, it appears on a small clay tablet from the ancient city of Uruk, a tablet concerned not with conquest or glory, but with barley. The name is Kushim, and if scholars are correct, it may be the oldest personal name ever recorded. But before we ask who Kushim was, we must ask a more fundamental question. Why was his name written down at all? Around 5,000 years ago, in the fertile lands of southern Mesopotamia, the city of Uruk stood among humanity's greatest achievements. Its population numbered in the tens of thousands. Its temples oversaw vast economic networks. Its fields produced enormous quantities of grain. Its administrators managed resources on a scale that earlier villages could scarcely imagine. Within this increasingly complex world, information became valuable. Grain had to be counted, workers had to be supplied, storehouses had to be monitored, deliveries had to be recorded, and somewhere within this administrative machinery, a small clay tablet was created. The tablet records a transaction involving barley. More specifically, it appears to document the delivery of tens of thousands of measures of barley over a period of many months. At first glance, it seems unremarkable. A receipt, a ledger, a piece of bureaucracy, the sort of document most people would overlook. Yet hidden within its markings lies a mystery that has captivated historians and archaeologists alike. The word Kushim. For many years, Kushim has often been described as the first known person in history, the first individual whose name survives in written form. But history is rarely so simple. The tablet does not tell us, "I am Kushim." It does not describe his life. It does not reveal his appearance. It does not tell us his profession. It merely presents a sequence of signs that scholars commonly read as Kushim. This raises an important question. Was Kushim actually a person? Many scholars believe so. The name appears in a position similar to where personal names later appear in administrative records. If this interpretation is correct, Kushim may have been an official responsible for overseeing or verifying the transaction. Perhaps a scribe, perhaps an administrator, perhaps an accountant. But certainty remains elusive. Some researchers have suggested that Kushim may not have been a personal name at all. It could have referred to an office, a title, an institution, or something else entirely. The truth is that we do not know, and acknowledging uncertainty is an important part of historical inquiry. The evidence points in certain directions, but it does not eliminate every possibility. What we can say, with confidence, is that the signs on the tablet were important enough to record, and that alone tells us something about the world in which they were written. To understand Kushim, we must understand Uruk. For most of human history, writing did not exist. Small communities relied upon memory. People knew who owed grain, who owned livestock, who contributed labor. The scale of society remained manageable, but cities changed everything. As populations expanded, human memory encountered its limits. A temple responsible for thousands of workers could not rely upon recollection alone. A storehouse containing vast quantities of grain required records. Administrators needed a system capable of tracking resources accurately. Civilization had become too complex to fit inside a human mind. Memory needed assistance. A village can rely upon memory. A city cannot. The larger a society becomes, the more it depends upon systems that exist beyond any single individual. And so humanity began creating external memory. Not books, not literature, not philosophy, at least not at first. Administration, accounting, record keeping. These practical needs would ultimately give birth to writing itself. Yet writing did not emerge overnight. Before clay tablets came clay tokens, small objects representing quantities of goods, a sheep, a jar of oil, a measure of grain. These tokens could be counted and exchanged. Later, they were enclosed within clay containers, known as bulli. The container acted almost like a sealed contract, a way of verifying information. Eventually, markings began appearing on the outside of the clay itself. Information that once existed as physical tokens could now be represented directly. Over generations, these markings became increasingly sophisticated, more abstract, more efficient. The long journey toward writing had begun. Kushim's tablet stands near the end of this evolution, not at the beginning, but at the moment when information itself was becoming a technology. For the first time in human history, knowledge no longer depended entirely upon memory. It could be stored, transferred, verified, and preserved. What makes Kushim remarkable is not necessarily who he was. It is where he appears. The earliest surviving name does not emerge from a royal monument. It does not celebrate a military victory. It does not preserve a heroic tale. Instead, it appears within a record concerned with administration and grain. At first, this may seem disappointing, almost mundane. We often imagine history as a procession of great rulers and dramatic events. Yet most civilizations spend far more time managing harvests than fighting battles. Perhaps it should not surprise us that the earliest traces of writing reflect the realities of everyday administration. Civilization is built not only by visionaries and rulers, it is also built by systems, by organization, by countless individuals ensuring that resources move where they are needed. The tablet reminds us that beneath every great civilization lies an invisible framework of administration. And it was this framework that first demanded writing, not immortality, not glory, but accountability. Before humanity recorded its heroes, it recorded its grain. Before it preserved its legends, it preserved its accounts. And in those accounts, perhaps by accident, a name survived: Kushim. 5,000 years have passed since the tablet was pressed into wet clay. The barley it recorded is long gone. The workers it supplied are gone. The institutions that created it have vanished. Even Uruk itself eventually declined. Yet the tablet survived. The transaction it recorded was probably routine, ordinary, forgettable, and with it survived a name, or perhaps the shadow of a name: Kushim. Whether person, office, title, or institution, the mark endured. And through that mark, a forgotten world still speaks. Not through stories of kings, not through tales of conquest, but through the simple act of keeping records. Perhaps that is the true lesson of Kushim. Writing did not begin as a monument to greatness. It began as a solution to a problem, a way to remember what could no longer be remembered. And in solving that problem, humanity discovered something extraordinary. a means of speaking across thousands of years. 5 millennia later, we still do not know exactly who Kushim was, yet we still speak the name. And perhaps that is the greatest irony of all. The first surviving voice from history may belong not to a ruler or a hero, but to someone tasked with keeping track of barley.